The Indiana Fever faced a tough challenge in their final regular season game against the Washington Mystics. Despite their best efforts, the Fever couldn't overcome a strong performance from the Mystics, ultimately losing by 1 point. But the story that dominated the game wasn't just the scoreline, it was the decision to bench Caitlin Clark and key players during key moments of the game. For most of the season, Clark has been the driving force behind Indiana's success, and fans are used to seeing her play heavy minutes. But in this game, Clark found herself on the bench more than expected. The Fever came out with high energy, hoping to finish their regular season strong before the playoffs. Caitlin Clark, as usual, was a key focus for Indiana's offense, pushing the pace and looking to create opportunities. However, the Fever's execution wasn't at its best, with turnovers and missed shots giving Washington an early lead. The Fever managed to get away with a 2-point advantage in the first quarter, but that didn't last long. Clark played significant minutes in the first, trying to set the tone, but the Fever's supporting cast struggled to keep up with Washington's aggressive defense. In the second quarter, Clark continued to push her team, but it became clear that the Fever were in trouble. Washington's defense and offense was relentless, and they quickly extended their lead. Indiana's shooting struggles and turnovers were the main culprits. It was like they forgot how to pass the ball. Despite the mounting pressure, Caitlin Clark was benched halfway through the quarter, with the coaching staff making a clear decision to preserve her for the upcoming playoffs. Caitlin is a fierce competitor, and she was visibly frustrated on the bench, eager to get back on the court. Coach Christy Sides addressed the benching in the postgame interview, saying,
"You know, it's funny. I was asked that question out in the hallway, and she knew the expectation, and I kind of let her know exactly about how many minutes she had left, just because had I not, I would have been listening to her. She'd have been ready to go back in. I love that about her, though. Isn't that what you love about her? She is just a fierce competitor, and that's what makes her special."
Without Caitlin Clark on the floor for much of the third quarter as well, Indiana struggled to keep up with Washington. Turnovers continued to pile up, and the Mystics' defense effectively shut down Indiana's offensive efforts. Clark, sitting on the bench, really wanted to get back in and involved, but it just wasn't going to happen. Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull, and Aaliyah Boston also benched. There was no starters on the court at all. While the Fever fought to stay in the game, Washington capitalized on every missed opportunity. Christy Wallace and Katie Lou Samuelson tried to fill the gap left by Clark's absence, but their shots didn't fall consistently. As Washington's lead grew, the decision to bench Clark became a larger talking point. The fourth quarter saw Indiana mount a comeback attempt, but Caitlin still remained on the bench. Without their star player, the Fever relied on their bench to step up. While players like Christy Wallace and Katie Lou Samuelson gave their all, the absence of Clark's leadership on the court was evident. Despite a solid effort, Indiana couldn't close the gap, and Washington held on for the win by 1 point. Coach Sides praised the efforts of the bench players and the team's total chemistry, saying,
"Did you see the bench tonight at the end of that game with that great team in? That was, even though we did not come away with this win, just the excitement that group had for that great team that was out there. People wanted us to win now, right when the season started. And if you've been around the game, and this league is the best in the world, and these teams are tough, and it takes time. So they needed to learn each other. And we really focused on that, especially in the All-Star break, with just even off the court. That was huge for us. And now, they've built this relationship, this chemistry. You throw a group of 12 women in a room together, it's not always going to be perfect, right? It's still not perfect, but these guys they're pulling for each other. And that was just so proud. We had 2 great shots at the end to win that game, and that would have been the icing on the cake. But still, just the comeback that those guys had. Christy Wallace, Katie Lou, both those guys are going to get minutes, and they need to be ready for the playoffs. And we need them, and I thought tonight really helped them be ready for those minutes that they're going to get.
I guess with the Fever already in the playoffs, they didn't need to risk any injuries by playing the star players, and it was good for the bench to get a rotation, but Clark would have hit one shot that would have easily won them the game. With the loss behind them, the Fever now turn their focus to the playoffs, where they'll face the Connecticut Sun in the first round. Connecticut is an experienced team, having been together for years, while Indiana is still in the early stages of building their chemistry. Caitlin Clark will be crucial in this matchup, and the decision to bench her during the game against Washington was likely made with the bigger picture in mind. Coach Sides emphasized the importance of being ready and having fresh players for the playoffs, saying,
these guys know how to take it to that next level. They've played for championships. They're a playoff veteran team. They know what it means when the playoffs come, that it's going to be a next level, and you've got to get to that. I remember my first pregame speech, I think it was May 21st or whatever that was when we played them. Their toughness and their physicality is what we had to be able to handle. We didn't do it that first time. And I think we're better now with understanding what that's going to feel like. They're going to be tough. I mean, they know what it takes to play and to win in the playoffs. But we're not the team that we were early, and we've been able to just keep getting better. We're looking forward on Sunday to giving Connecticut a good run, and it should be a really good game.
The Fever will need Clark at her best if they hope to pull off an upset against Connecticut, but as the Washington game showed, it's also about balance. Managing Clark's minutes now could pay dividends later, especially as Indiana looks to make some noise in the playoffs. Caitlin Clark's reaction to being benched during the loss to Washington was a reminder of her competitive fire. While she wanted to stay on the floor and help her team win, she also understands the bigger picture. With the playoffs just around the corner, Clark knows that Indiana's success depends on her being fresh and ready for the challenges ahead. As the Fever prepare for their matchup against Connecticut, Clark's leadership and ability to perform in high-pressure situations will be key. The decision to rest her during the game against Washington may have sparked debate, but it could also be the move that helps Indiana go further in the playoffs. Now, all eyes are on Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever as they take the next step in their journey. Will the strategy pay off? Only time will tell.